In 1953, the average Canadian family spent nearly a third of its income on groceries. A third. And yet, grandmothers from Halifax to Vancouver fed families of 8 on almost nothing. The secret was not coupons or careful shopping. It was knowing how to turn 3 ingredients into a meal that stuck to your ribs and kept you warm through a -30 prairie night. Number 22 on this list kept entire mining towns alive through northern Ontario winters. Number 9 was so simple that modern chefs refuse to believe it works. And number 3 created a dessert so rich that bakeries now charge $12 a slice for what your grandmother made with pocket change. These 30 meals were born in Depression-era kitchens and perfected through the 1950s. Before we begin, hit subscribe, because these recipes are disappearing fast. Let us count them down. Number 30, fried bologna sandwiches. Before deli counters offered 17 varieties of artisan charcuterie, your grandmother bought a whole tube of bologna from the IGA for about 35 cents. She sliced it thick, scored the edges with a paring knife so it would not curl, and fried it in a hot skillet until the edges crisped and the kitchen filled with that unmistakable smoky sizzle. 2 slices of white bread, a smear of yellow mustard, done. That was lunch for 3 children, and it cost less than a dime. The scoring was the trick. Without those little cuts, the bologna ballooned in the center and cooked unevenly. Every mother on the block knew this. Children raced home from school for that smell, the edges going brown and crispy, the mustard sharp against the salt. We buy fancy paninis now for $14. Your grandmother fed the whole kitchen table for the price of a stick of gum. Number 29, bread and molasses. In the Maritimes, this was not a snack. It was supper. A thick slice of homemade bread, a scrape of butter, and a pour of Crosby's blackstrap molasses. That dark, bittersweet syrup was iron-rich and cheap, about 20 cents a tin in 1954. Fishermen's wives in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick served it after long days when the catch was poor and the pantry was thin. Children licked their fingers. Fathers soaked the bread until it went soft and dark. The combination of butter and molasses on warm bread created something almost like caramel, sweet and earthy, and impossibly comforting. Nutritionists now call blackstrap molasses a superfood, packed with iron, calcium, and magnesium. Your grandmother called it Tuesday supper. Number 28, potato soup, 3 ingredients, potatoes and onion and milk. Your grandmother peeled and cubed 6 potatoes, boiled them with a chopped onion until soft, then mashed the lot roughly and stirred in whole milk until the pot turned creamy and thick. Salt, pepper, and maybe a knob of butter if it was payday. A 10-pound bag of potatoes cost about 25 cents in 1955. This pot fed 6 people and cost almost nothing. On the coldest nights in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, that soup was the only thing standing between your family and hunger. Children ate it with torn chunks of bread, soaking up the starchy broth. Mothers served it so often that some kids swore they would never eat potato soup again. Most of them came back to it eventually. Number 27, sugar pie. Quebec grandmothers guarded this recipe like a family secret, but the truth is almost embarrassingly simple. A pie crust, brown sugar, and cream. That was it. Pack the brown sugar into the raw crust, pour heavy cream over the top, and bake until the filling bubbled and set into a dense, toffee-like custard. Tarte au sucre appeared at every Réveillon supper, every church social, every family gathering from the Laurentians to the Gasp. A whole pie cost less than 30 cents to make. Children fought over the last slice, scraping the plate for the caramelized edges where sugar met pastry. Today, patisseries in Montreal sell single slices for what your grandmother spent on an entire Christmas dessert. Number 26, egg in a hole. Your grandmother took a slice of bread, pressed a drinking glass into the center to cut a circle, dropped the bread into a buttered skillet, and cracked an egg right into the hole. The bread toasted golden while the egg cooked sunny side up in the middle. 3 ingredients: bread, egg, butter. Breakfast for a child in under 3 minutes. The cutout circle got fried alongside and was used for dipping into the runny yolk. Nothing was wasted. In the 1950s, a dozen eggs cost about 45 cents. This single meal cost less than 5 cents and made children feel like they were eating something magical. Every province had a different name for it, such as toad in a hole, bird's nest, one-eyed Jack, but the method was identical from coast to coast. Number 25, lard biscuits, flour, lard, and milk. Your grandmother could have these on the table in 15 minutes flat. She cut cold lard into flour with a fork until it looked like coarse meal, poured in just enough milk to bring the dough together, patted it out on a floured board, and cut rounds with an overturned glass. They were baked in a hot oven until golden. A 5-pound bag of Robin Hood flour cost about 30 cents. A pound of lard, maybe 15 cents. These biscuits were the backbone of every prairie breakfast, split open and drizzled with honey or topped with a fried egg. They were served alongside stews, soups, and Sunday roasts. When store-bought bread was a luxury, lard biscuits were the daily standard, and they tasted better than anything wrapped in plastic. Number 24, canned salmon patties. 1 tin of pink salmon, 1 egg, and a fistful of crushed soda crackers. Your grandmother drained the salmon, mashed it with the egg and crackers, shaped the mixture into patties, and fried them in a hot skillet until both sides turned golden and crisp. A tin of salmon cost about 20 cents in 1956. This stretched to 4 generous patties that fed the whole family on a Friday night. The crackers absorbed moisture and held everything together while the egg bound the mixture. Some grandmothers added nothing else. Others snuck in a pinch of salt. Either way, the patties came out with a crunchy exterior and a soft, flaky center. Served with boiled potatoes and a splash of vinegar, this was the Friday supper that Catholic families across Canada relied on during Lent, week after week, year after year. Number 23, macaroni and stewed tomatoes. Elbow macaroni, a tin of tomatoes, and butter. Your grandmother boiled the macaroni, drained it, stirred in the tinned tomatoes, and added a generous lump of butter. The acid from the tomatoes cut through the starch, the butter made it rich, and the whole dish came together in one pot in about 12 minutes. A box of macaroni cost 10 cents. A tin of tomatoes cost maybe 12 cents. This was the weeknight supper that nobody wrote down, because everyone already knew how to make it. In mining towns across northern Ontario and Cape Breton, this dish appeared on tables 3 or 4 times a week. Children doused it in salt. Fathers ate it without complaint. It was hot, it was filling, and it was ready before the evening news. Number 22, pea soup with ham bone. Dried split peas, a leftover ham bone, and water. Your grandmother simmered that bone all day, the marrow and scraps of meat dissolving into a thick broth that could stand a spoon upright. In Quebec, soupe aux pois was the national dish before poutine ever existed. Lumber camps served it by the cauldron. Farm wives kept it going on the back of the wood stove from Monday through Saturday. A pound of dried peas cost about 10 cents. The ham bone was free, save from Sunday dinner. This single pot fed a family for days. Reheated and thickened each morning until the last bowl was scraped clean on Friday night. The smell of simmering peas and smoked pork drifted through farmhouse kitchens across the country, marking the slow passage of winter afternoons. Number 21, fried potatoes and onions. Sliced potatoes, a sliced onion, and lard or bacon fat. Your grandmother heated the fat in a cast iron skillet, layered in the potatoes and onions, and fried them low and slow until the edges went crispy and the onions turned golden and sweet. That was supper, sometimes the whole supper. In the prairies during lean months, fried potatoes and onions kept families alive. The cast iron was important. It held heat evenly and created a crust that no modern non-stick pan can replicate. Children sat at the table, watching their mother flip the potatoes with a metal spatula, listening to the sizzle, waiting for the moment she declared them done. At 5 cents for the whole meal, this was poverty cooking at its most honest and at its most delicious. Number 20, brown sugar fudge. Brown sugar, butter, and milk. Your grandmother boiled these 3 ingredients together, stirring constantly until the mixture reached soft ball stage, then beat it with a wooden spoon until it turned thick and creamy. Pour it into a buttered pan and cut into squares. This was the treat that appeared at church bake sales, Christmas gatherings, and Saturday afternoons when children needed something sweet. A pound of brown sugar cost about 12 cents. The whole batch cost less than 25 cents. The trick was knowing when to stop boiling. Too soon and the fudge stayed soft. Too long and it turned grainy. Your grandmother tested it by dropping a bit into cold water, watching it form a ball she could flatten with her fingers. No thermometer, no recipe card, just instinct built from years of standing at the stove. Number 19, oatmeal porridge with brown sugar, rolled oats, water, and brown sugar. Your grandmother cooked the oats on the stovetop, stirring slowly until they turned thick and creamy, then spooned them into bowls and topped each one with a mound of brown sugar that melted into amber puddles. In the 1950s, a large canister of Ogilvy oats cost about 20 cents and lasted 2 weeks. This was breakfast every single morning in most Canadian homes. Children ate it before walking to school through snowdrifts. Fathers ate it before heading to the mill or the mine. The porridge sat in your stomach like a warm stone, carrying you through the morning without complaint. We buy overnight oats in mason jars now for $6 at cafes. Your grandmother spent 3 cents and fed 5 people. Number 18, bannock. Flour, water, and lard. The simplest bread in Canada and one of the oldest. Indigenous communities had been making bannock for generations, and by the 1950s it had become a staple across rural and northern kitchens of every background. Your grandmother mixed flour and lard with just enough water to form a dough, then fried it in a skillet or baked it in the oven until golden and slightly crisp on the outside, soft and warm within. Bannock traveled well. It lasted for days. It could be eaten plain, dipped in stew, or spread with jam. In remote communities where store-bought bread might not arrive for weeks, bannock was the daily bread that kept families fed. A batch cost almost nothing and could be made anywhere there was a fire and a pan. Number 17, cretins. Ground pork, onion, and breadcrumbs. This Quebec cold weather spread was made by simmering seasoned pork with onions and stale bread until the mixture broke down into a coarse, spreadable paste. Packed into crocks and chilled, cretins became the breakfast staple of every French-Canadian kitchen. Spread thick on toast, it was the fuel that carried lumberjacks and farmers through frozen mornings. A pound of ground pork cost about 25 cents. The whole batch made enough to last a week. Children grew up scraping it onto bread with the same casual ease as peanut butter. Outside Quebec, almost nobody has heard of cretins. Inside the province, its absence from a breakfast table would have been unthinkable. Number 16, boiled salt pork dinner. A chunk of salt pork, potatoes, and turnip. Your grandmother simmered the pork until it turned tender and the salt leached into the cooking water. Then she added chunked potatoes and turnip to cook in the briny broth. In Newfoundland, this was called Jig's dinner in its simplest form. A pound of salt pork cost about 20 cents and flavored the entire pot. The turnip absorbed the pork's smokiness. The potatoes soaked up the broth. It was plain, honest food that asked nothing of the cook but time. Fishing families along the Atlantic coast ate this weekly, the pot simmering on the stove while the men came in from the water. That salty, starchy broth could warm a body right through to the bones on the coldest February night. Number 15, bread pudding, stale bread, milk, and eggs. Your grandmother never threw away bread. When the loaf went hard, she tore it into chunks, soaked it in sweetened milk and beaten eggs, and baked the lot until it puffed golden and custardy. A whole pudding cost perhaps 10 cents and served the family dessert for 2 nights. Some grandmothers added a handful of raisins if they had them. Others drizzled maple syrup over the top. But the 3-ingredient version was the standard, born from the Depression-era rule that waste was a sin. Children scraped the dish clean. The crispy edges where custard met pan were fought over the same way every night. Number 14. Rice and raisins. White rice, raisins, and milk. Your grandmother simmered the rice and milk on the stovetop until it turned creamy and thick. She stirred in the raisins and served it warm in bowls. This was dessert, lunch, or sick day food depending on the household. A bag of rice cost 15 cents and lasted for weeks. The raisins swelled in the warm milk, bursting sweet against the bland starch. It was the comfort food that appeared whenever a child was unwell, a snowstorm kept the family indoors, or the pantry had run dangerously low. Simple, warm, filling. The kind of meal that nobody ever requested, but everybody ate gratefully. Number 13. Potato. Pancakes. Grated potatoes, an egg, and flour. Your grandmother squeezed out the moisture from grated potatoes, mixed in the egg and a spoonful of flour, then dropped spoonfuls into hot lard and fried them until both sides were crispy and golden. In Ukrainian and Polish communities across the prairies, these were called plaki or latkes, and they stretched a few potatoes into a meal for 6. The outside shattered when you bit in. The inside was soft and steaming. Children ate them with sour cream. Fathers ate them plain. These pancakes used the cheapest ingredients in the pantry and turned them into something people actually craved. Number 12. Kraft dinner with cut-up hot dogs. The original box of Kraft dinner cost about 19 cents in the 1950s. Add 2 hot dogs sliced into coins and you had the most iconic poor man's supper in Canadian history. Boil the macaroni, stir in the powdered cheese with milk and butter, toss in the sliced hot dogs, and feed 4 children for under 40 cents. No other nation on earth adopted Kraft dinner the way Canada did. By the late 1950s, it was already a weekly fixture from Charlottetown to Victoria. Children loved it without reservation. Mothers relied on it without apology. It was fast, it was cheap, and nobody left the table hungry. This one needs no nostalgia. It never left. Number 11. Corn fritters. Canned corn, egg, and flour. Your grandmother drained the corn, mixed it with a beaten egg, and enough flour to hold it together, then dropped spoonfuls into hot oil. They came out golden and puffy, sweet from the corn, crispy from the fryer. A tin of corn cost about 10 cents. The whole batch made a dozen fritters, enough for supper alongside a bowl of soup. Children ate them with maple syrup. Parents ate them plain. In farming communities where corn came fresh from the field, the fritters tasted even better, made the same afternoon the ears were picked. Number 10. Molasses cookies. Flour, molasses, and butter. 3 ingredients rolled into a dough, cut into rounds, and baked until the edges crisped and the center stayed soft and chewy. The molasses gave them a deep, almost burnt sweetness that white sugar could never match. Cookie tins in every Canadian kitchen held these dark, crackle-topped rounds through the 1950s. Children reached into those tins after school, and the cookies were sturdy enough to pack in lunch pails for the mill or the mine. A whole batch cost less than 15 cents. They lasted for weeks, stored in a tin if they survived that long. Number 9. Toast and bacon fat. When the bacon was gone, the fat stayed in the pan. Your grandmother saved it in a jar by the stove and spread it on toast the way you would spread butter. Bread, bacon fat, and a pinch of salt. That was a meal. The fat carried the smoky ghost of 100 breakfasts, salty and rich and deeply savory. In the 1950s, no one threw away bacon grease. It was currency. It went into biscuits, fried eggs, pie crusts, and yes, straight onto bread. Children ate it without question. Modern kitchens throw away the best part of the bacon every single morning. Your grandmother would be horrified. Number 8. Baked beans on toast. A tin of beans, bread, and butter. Your grandmother heated the beans, toasted the bread, buttered it thick, and poured the beans over the top. This was Saturday lunch in kitchens across the country. A tin of Heinz beans cost about 12 cents. 2 slices of bread, maybe 3 cents. The whole meal came in under 20 cents and kept you full until supper. Children mashed the beans into the toast until the bread went soft and saucy. Fathers ate 2 plates. This was not cooking. This was survival dressed as a meal, and it worked perfectly. Number 7, fried egg sandwiches. 2 slices of bread, an egg, and butter. Your grandmother fried the egg and butter, slid it between 2 slices of bread, and pressed down until the yolk broke and soaked into the crumb. That golden, buttery yolk running through soft white bread was the taste of a 1950s afternoon. The whole sandwich cost 4 cents. It took 2 minutes to make. Children ate these after school, standing at the counter, yolk dripping down their wrists. It was the fastest, cheapest, most satisfying meal your grandmother knew, and she made hundreds of them without ever once thinking of it as a recipe. Number 6, onion soup. Onions, butter, and bread. Your grandmother sliced onions thin, cooked them slowly in butter until they turned deep, amber, and sweet, added water to make the broth, then ladled it over a thick slice of bread in each bowl. No Gruyere, no fancy crock. Just soft, sweet onions, rich buttery broth, and bread that soaked it all up and fell apart on the spoon. A pound of onions cost about 5 cents. This was the soup that appeared when the pantry was nearly bare and payday was still 2 days away. It tasted like something that should have cost far more than it did. Number 5, pancakes, flour, eggs, and milk. Your grandmother mixed these into a thin batter and poured rounds onto a hot greased griddle. No box mix. No baking powder in the original version. Just simple, thin, crepe-like pancakes that came off the griddle soft and golden. Stacked high and drizzled with maple syrup, they were the Sunday morning ritual in kitchens from New Brunswick to British Columbia. A batch cost less than a dime and fed every seat at the table. The griddle had to be seasoned just right. Too hot and they burned. Too cool and they turned pale and rubbery. Your grandmother knew the temperature by holding her hand 6 inches above the surface. No thermometer needed. Number 4, carnation milk pudding. A tin of carnation evaporated milk, sugar, and cornstarch. Your grandmother heated the milk, whisked in sugar and cornstarch, and stirred until the mixture thickened into a smooth, creamy pudding. Poured into cups and chilled, it set firm enough to turn out onto a plate. A tin of carnation cost about 15 cents. The whole dessert served 6 people for under 20 cents. In the 1950s, carnation was the secret ingredient in half the desserts in Canada. Whipped, it became cream. Cooked, it became pudding. Chilled and sweetened, it became icebox filling. Your grandmother used it because fresh cream was expensive and spoiled fast. Carnation lasted in the cupboard for months and never let her down. Number 3, sugar on snow. Maple syrup, snow, and a pickle. Every spring across Quebec and Ontario, your grandmother would boil maple syrup until it reached the thread stage, then pour it in ribbons over a tray of packed snow. The hot syrup hit the cold snow and turned into chewy, golden taffy. The children wound around popsicle sticks and ate right there in the yard. The pickle was served alongside as a palate cleanser, its sharpness cutting through the sweetness so you could eat another round. A tin of maple syrup cost about 60 cents in the 1950s. The snow was free. This simple ritual marked the end of winter and the start of sugaring season. Cabanes à sucre across the country still serve it, but your grandmother did it in the backyard with a pot and a snowbank. No admission fee required. Number 2, condensed milk fudge. It used just 1 tin of Eagle brand condensed milk, chocolate chips, and butter. Grandmothers melted these together in a double boiler, poured the mixture into a buttered pan, and chilled it until firm. The result was dense, smooth, impossibly rich fudge that melted on your tongue and made store-bought candy taste like cardboard. A tin of Eagle brand cost about 20 cents. The whole batch produced 2 dozen squares for under 50 cents. This was the fudge that filled Christmas tins, church bake sale tables, and secret hiding spots in kitchen cupboards where grandmothers stashed a few squares for themselves. No candy thermometer, no softball stage, no standing at the stove, praying it would set. It worked every single time. Number 1, biscuits and maple syrup. Homemade biscuits, butter, and warm maple syrup poured over the top. This was the meal that defined Canadian thrift. Those same lard biscuits from number 25 were split open while still steaming. A pat of butter was dropped into the center, and maple syrup was drizzled until it pooled on the plate. That was breakfast. That was dessert. Sometimes that was all there was. The biscuit soaked up the syrup like a sponge. The butter melted into the crumb. The maple hit your tongue warm and sweet, with that unmistakable caramel depth that no artificial syrup can touch. A plate of this cost less than 10 cents in 1955. It took 15 minutes from flour bin to table, and it tasted like home in a way that nothing from a drive-thru ever will. Your grandmother made these on mornings when the snow was piled to the windowsill and the wood stove was the only warm thing in the house. She made them on birthdays and on ordinary Tuesdays. She never measured anything, and they came out perfect every time. Try one of these this week. Just one. The fried bologna, the sugar pie, the bannock, the pea soup. Then come back and tell me your grandmother was wrong. I dare you. Share which one you are going to make first in the comments. And if your grandmother had a 3-ingredient meal that did not make this list, drop it below. Because these recipes deserve to be remembered. They were not just cheap meals, they were proof that the women who raised this country could feed a family on almost nothing and make it taste like everything.